Cash One Pawn has the most extensive inventory of any pawn shop in western Montana. Whether you're in the market for firearms, power tools, bows, video game consoles, or sunglasses, Cash One Pawn has the best deals around. And now Cash One Pawn gives you the ability to shop online from anywhere. Make CashOnePawn.com part of your shopping habits. Also make sure to download the Cash One Pawn app. Cash One Pawn, Missoula's premier pawn shop, located on Roller Coaster Road on the way to the Y.
What is a jewelry design center?
JDC is a family-owned business with deep roots in Montana. Why Montana? Because this community made us. Made us family, made us artisans, made us believe in love, made us hometown heroes. Because this community made us shine. Why Montana? Because Montana is home.
Are we in a consensus agreement that Jabril Bello has to be in the top 10 somewhere?
If he's 10th, that's fine. He's got to be
But he's got to be in the top 10.
Yeah.
To gain a consensus of whether or not Dylan Jones has to be in the top 10, here are our other 5 primary candidates for the top 10. Jordan Davis, Northern Colorado. Quentin Hooker, North Dakota. Raekwon Battle, Montana State. Michael Ogine, Montana. Harold Frey, Montana State. Is there 2 of those 5 that definitively deserve to be in the top 10 over Dylan Jones?
Unfortunately, and it's wild because it's almost borderline sad that Harry didn't win more. But Harold Frey's got to be out of this.
Harold Frey's got to be out of it because Harold Frey, who knows what would have happened Harold Frey's senior year.
He had a chance at it.
The Cats finished 5th, but that was a pretty wide open tournament.
Yeah, Sprinkle's first year.
Eastern Washington was the league champion, but nobody was scared of them. They had lost to Montana twice. They'd lost to Montana State. They had lost to they lost one other. They were like 14-6 in league play, but they had lost to all of the other contenders at least once. That tournament seemed like it was wide open because it seemed like the Grizz with Saeed Pridgett and the Cats with Harold Frey could make runs at it too. So there's like this missing gap of what that class of guys did in their senior year. I think Harold Frey is absolutely one of the greatest basketball players I've ever watched. I mean, he's in the top 5 when you're talking about tickets you're going to buy a ticket. But I agree with you. I think that if your best finish is 5th place and you never won anything in the tournament, you got to be off the list.
You got to be off it. So then I think that there's a weird argument here that if Bello's on here, then Battle probably isn't. Which
is crazy.
Battle, when he took it over and he was the guy, he's as good as anybody.
So let's talk about Battle for a second, because those that know the story, Raekwon Battle, he's a 4-star recruit coming out of high school. He went to the University of Washington. He got caught in the wash at the University of Washington. Everything from the transition from living on a reservation to going to a 60,000 person school, to the academics, to the lack of playing time and the turnover on the coaching staff, all that made Raekwon Battle get caught in the wash. Then he comes to Montana State and they treated him with kid gloves. Raekwon Battle was no question one of the most talented players in the league from the day he came to Montana State. He didn't start.
No question.
He didn't start, though, until his second year at Montana State. Danny Sprinkle made him come off the bench and made him earn it, but they also did that to mitigate the pressure on him.
Yep.
Right? So he has like this gap in statistics, because if you just look at, he only averaged like 9 points per game his junior year. But they were spectacular 9 points per game, right?
Yeah.
So that's an interesting deal. The other arguments I would have for the other, I also think it's crazy to say because he's seriously my favorite player we've ever covered, but Michael Ogine I think has to be dropped.
It's asinine.
It's crazy, but I think he has to get bumped.
Give us the argument. It's insane. Because when we said top 10, I literally went Tyler Harvey, Benkei Joyce, Michael Ogine.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay, let's leave Ogine.
Just give us the argument.
On one side or the
let's
other?
work through that.
Okay, let's work. Okay.
You already told me.
Ogine is the best on-ball defender the league has seen in the last 10 years. He's also the best athlete the league has seen in the last 10 years. He was the conference tournament MVP his senior year.
And
yet
they won everything.
They won everything. He was also the definitive third best player on his team for the duration of his career.
Oh, my gosh.
Except in late and close games a lot of the time.
Sure. Man, I'm so torn on this because, again, I think that Michael Ogine at the same time deserves all the credit in the world for playing a role, especially offensively, that was different or probably detrimental to his skill set.
Yes.
If he's the dude who you were running ISO plays through, or you let him play on the ball, like remember that one game at Portland State when they let him play on the ball?
Vaguely.
He scored 39 points because they're running a press and he's just getting to the rim over and over and over and over again. You know, he's a 1,600 point scorer with being the third option on his team for the duration of his career. All that said, when you're talking about the mechanism of making a basketball team, if you have Jamar Coe at the 5, Bobby Moorhead at the stretch 4, Saeed Pridgett as the Swiss Army knife guy playing on the wing, Ahmad Rory at point guard, ironically, if you replace Ogine with a pure shooter or more of a role player, it actually makes everybody else better.
I understand that argument big time, but
he also, on the other side, deserves all the credit in the world because he made it work.
He made it work.
He made it work playing off the ball without being able to shoot.
My argument for him, and I told Andrew this, is that if we have this 15 guys laid out here, he's the most well-rounded player on this list.
Yeah, he is.
His offense at 13 a game, 12 a game, is equal to his defense, which is equal to his teamwork.
He also impacted winning at a higher level than
every single
Dylan Jones and Raekwon Battle for sure.
Every person on this list.
Okay, Andrew, make your argument for Jordan Davis. You profiled Jordan Davis when he was a senior. Jordan Davis is the second all-time leading scorer in the history of the league. He has the single biggest dunk we've ever seen. I mean, Brooks.
I think he might have the 10 biggest dunks.
But Brooks went viral for the dunk that he had on Fabian Krizelvik. That's the biggest tweet in the history of Skyline Sports. It got hundreds of thousands of views because of the still photo that Brooks has of Jordan Davis basically honey dipping on Fabian Krizelvik. But that dunk came in a loss.
It did.
Northern Colorado was the 2 seed 2 years in a row, and Jordan Davis was their best player. What did they do in the first round of the tournament? They lost. I'm unsure if he actually was ever even a part of a Big Sky tournament win. Maybe one. Like the dunk was his freshman year, and I believe that they lost to the Grizz in the semis that year. Other than that, I actually don't believe that Jordan Davis was a part of a Big Sky tournament win. So state the case for or against Jordan Davis, Andrew.
To me, he's just the apex of that sort of archetype that we're talking about, where it's the scoring guard, the guy who can do everything on the court, the dude who absolutely cannot be guarded. You put the ball in his hands.
Cannot guard it.
There's nobody in the last 10 years who can guard a guy like that. I mean, I know that Northern Colorado's offensive system was geared towards
for sure
getting the ball in his hands, letting him score 20 points a game. Even with that, looking at his senior season, that's just like the peak of that. That matches up with anything that Jeremy
what did he average?
Senglin
Like 25 points per game?
24.
23.5 points per game.
Yeah.
4.7 assists per game with a positive assist-to-turnover ratio, so he was not just a gunner.
Okay, so tell me this. Do you guys agree or disagree? Some people would say, well, if you're going to put Tyler Hall, who won nothing on here, you got to put Jordan Davis, who won more than Tyler Hall.
Definitely.
At the same time, again, Jordan Davis is probably one of the more explosive, if not the most explosive, besides Ogine, athletes on this list.
He's more explosive than that.
I would pay no money to see Jordan Davis play basketball.
I think that's fair. I think that style that he...
That's not true. I'd pay $10, maybe $12. I'd pay $30 to watch Tyler Hall, though.
I hear you, and I agree with you to some extent. I think that there is an archetype that is very NBA-like with Jordan Davis, that people who don't like the NBA don't like players who play like him.
Who's his NBA comp, Andrew? Russell Westbrook?
No. I mean, he's more of the Jamal Crawford than Tyler Hall was because he could create his own shot, and he had a little bit of the point guard in him, too.
You got to have the bounce. I mean, he's poor man's Derrick Rose.
That's a really good one.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah, you got to have the bounce because he's got a 45-inch.
I'm saying I would only pay $12 to watch the poor man's Derrick Rose. Don't listen to what I'm talking about.
And I mean, I don't know these guys' stats. We always say, oh, he's got a 40-inch vert. I mean, Jordan Davis might have a 50-inch vert.
No, Jordan Davis jumps all the way out of the gym.
And he developed in an interesting way too. I mean, he's a guy that could absolutely ruin a program, bring you down with a funny attitude and a ball hog mentality and all this stuff. And he really didn't. He really stayed the course and ended up being one of the best players in the league his senior year. And, I mean, I think he kind of maximized what he had.
He's one of those guys too, because there was this space and time in the Big Sky where half the coaches in the league were former Power 5 guys, and they all used to go to the same ABCD tournaments in Vegas, and they'd all be recruiting the same guys. But anytime any of those guys from that Vegas realm, and Jordan Davis is actually from Las Vegas, anytime those guys would go anywhere in the Big Sky, the Brian Fishes and Don Verlins and Jack Murphys of the world would all be like, man, I can't believe Northern Colorado got this kid. I can't believe Jordan Davis is going to go play in Greeley. This guy should be playing at Oregon. This guy should be playing at USC. How'd they get him? And more importantly, how are they going to keep him? This day and age, who knows? Maybe Jordan Davis is just one and done. He's out. He's transferring to the Pac-12. But he did stay, and he deserves a ton of credit for that.
Here's the hardest part for Jordan Davis, and it's not anything to do with Jordan Davis, is that if we say that Michael Ogine contributed to winning in defense as much as anybody on this list, one of the most well-rounded players in probably the last 25 years of the league.
Yeah.
And we say that is going to matter in the history of how we chronicle this.
Yeah.
Then you say that we got Jordan Davis and Dylan Jones. We're going to put Jordan Davis over Dylan Jones.
Man.
That's a pretty tough argument there.
And the other problem is that there are guys of that archetype who did win, right?
Right.
Jeremy Singlin won.
Correct.
Tyler Harvey, who's a guy who I'd love to make the argument for, won the conference title in Missoula, and I know he had Venke Joyce on that team.
For sure.
But those guys are similar players in terms of just absolute microwave, like two-guard, combo guard scorers. And there are other guys who did that in the league and won and went to the NCAA tournament.
Okay, so I'm gonna eliminate one of my choices real quick. Quentin Hooker as a guy I nominated.
One of my choices too.
The North Dakota team that won the Big Sky and went to the Big Sky and went to the NCAA tournament is, I think we had them 6th all time in our top 10 countdown, maybe even 5th. Yeah. They were amazing. Yeah. Quentin Hooker had definitely one of the great senior years that we've seen. He was the preseason MVP, the postseason MVP. He was the MVP of everything. He's the steadiest Eddie. He played so great in the Big Sky tournament championship game. He's played so great in the NCAA tournament. Those all boost him up. That said, he was only very good until his senior year.
Yeah.
Some of these other guys were one of the best, if not the best guys in the league from their freshman years.
Absolutely.
That's another part that you have to use for the Ogine argument. Michael Ogine had the greatest freshman year in the history of Grizz basketball. He's the only player in the history of the Grizz to average double figures as a freshman, period. Never happened before, never happened since. Ogine, actually Josh Bannon might have gotten to double figures, but regardless, when Ogine did it, he was the first guy to do it. So he deserves credit for that too. I'm bumping Hooker down. So we got Bello for sure definitively in the top 8. Are we saying Ogine's definitively in the top 10?
I think he's got to be.
Okay, so basically it comes down to Dylan Jones and Jordan Davis. For our women, we did a 1A and 1B for the 10 spot. Are we cool with just putting both those guys up there?
I think it would be wrong to leave Jordan Davis out because of the whole career, but he can't be over Dylan Jones.
Okay,
so whatever you guys want to say.
So we're bumping Quentin Hooker down.
Who else do you want to mention here before we lock in this number 10 spot? Do you want to mention?
I got one that I have to say. And he didn't win. He played 1 year. I've never seen a player like Jake Wiley in my entire life.
Yeah.
Period. Jake Wiley as a senior went like 24, 10, and 3.5. He had almost 100 blocks. I mean, there's so unique. If he would have done that 2 or 3 times, he'd be in the top 3.
Yep. Wiley was unbelievable.
Colter, anybody for you who we haven't mentioned yet?
I think that you have to mention. I think there's a couple more you have to mention. Martin Breuning. I think the one thing that keeps him out is he didn't go to the NCAA tournament, although he played in the Big Sky tournament championship game twice. He's one of the better transfers the league has seen.
Lost to his rival, though.
He did.
Yeah,
he lost to Ball and Boy in the championship game.
Yep, that's it.
That's it. I think Vic Sanders has to at least be mentioned. He's definitely the best Idaho player of the last 10 years.
Yeah, him and Trayvon Allen, but Vic Sanders is a baller.
Trayvon Allen had to play for Zach Klaus. We'll leave it at that. Anybody that knows what we're talking about knows what we're talking about. Trayvon Allen is perhaps the greatest wasted talent in the history of the league.
One of my favorites.
It's ridiculous that Trayvon Allen, it's amazing that he stayed, in fact, because he would have been better off going to Whitworth.
Yep.
I mean, like literally, than winning 4 games at Idaho when he's just doing everything perfectly and everybody else is just a total train wreck. But Vic Sanders has to be mentioned. Jarek Harding has to be mentioned. Harding, the winning is absent, but he's definitely one of the most prolific scorers we've ever covered. And then I think Tanner Groves has to be mentioned.
I think so too.
Tanner Groves, I think the thing that keeps Tanner Groves out is he was not even an impactful player the first 2 years of his career. Then he was a fine player, and then he was the best player. Yep. And I think that's an awesome trajectory for him. He certainly had one of the best NCAA tournament performances against Kansas. But I still think he has the full body of work. He was a 4-year player, and he only has one real,
17 point a game.
Unforgettable seasons. The other two guys that we considered not for long were Andre Spite, one of the great one-and-dones, Arizona State transfer who led Northern Colorado all the way to the CBI title, and then John Knight. Southern Utah actually won more than a lot of the teams in the league, and John Knight was sort of the head of the snake for them, but they lost in big games multiple times, and they lost that semifinal to Montana State. Then the following year, when they were again a top 2 seed, they lost in their very first tournament game. So that's what keeps John Knight out. Anybody else that you needed to mention on this, Andrew?
No, I don't think so. Not, there's some other names for Montana, like Josh Bannon had a great 4-year career for Montana. We mentioned Marcus Graves in the first half,
sure,
who just I will always remember
for
those.
sure. Marcus Graves and if we're talking about just guys that are just straight up hoopers, Marcus Graves and Justin Strings were both
Justin Strings is a hooper.
I mean, Justin Strings is amazing, man. I never forget watching Justin Strings drop 34 against the Grizz in Missoula. Sac State always gave specifically Montana headaches, but those guys, they still have the winning.
Mason Peatling is a one-time Big Sky MVP. You win Big Sky MVP, you need to be mentioned on here. He didn't have a huge peak. He was only one-time first team. That was his MVP
there's
year.
also the dynamic there where Jake Wiley, Mason Peatling, and Tanner Groves all are the exact same thing, where it's you step into that role where you get to be like the 4-5 hybrid guy in that Eastern Washington offense. It doesn't matter who you are, you're going 16-8. If you're good, you're going 18-10, and if you're Jake Wiley, you're going 24-12.
Yep, Peatling went 17-9 that year, so about what you expect. And the last guy that I have to mention, a guy who I think is probably going to be on the All-Star team, Jonah Radaball had a really underrated career at Northern Colorado.
I believe he was 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, which is unique amongst this group of the last 10 years.
As a senior, Jonah Radaball averaged 16 points, 6 rebounds, 7 assists, was the best defensive player in the year, had 1.5 steals per game that year, shot 44% from three-point range that year. Those Radaball Bodie Hume teams sort of go under the radar a little bit because it was after the Spite and Jordan Davis years and before the Dalton Connect years, right? That is one of the best seasons. That's one of the absolute greatest seasons, I think, that doesn't get enough play in the last 10 years in Big Sky history. And Jonah Radaball had the 4 years. I'm not seriously arguing him for top 10, but a really underrated career.
He is absolutely underrated. 7 assists in college is so many. That is so many.
Oh, it's so many. Five's
a ton. So, and to be a defensive player and to be able to shoot the 3-ball, I might have this wrong. We could confirm it, but I do want to say I'm pretty sure that Jonah Radaball walked on.
That is indeed correct.
What a guy. Great haircut.
Yeah, and he did it all with the Jerry curls.
The Jerry curl is insane. It's a beautiful, beautiful cut.
Okay.
I think that we're fair on this. I think that Quentin Hooker just missed out. I think that Battle.
Do we get Battle up there?
The Battle argument is that it was for 3.5 months.
Yes.
It's not enough.
Are we okay with that? Raekwon Battle gets bumped.
I'm okay with both of those guys being just off the list.
So we're going top 11 in our top 10, basically.
Yep. So
Our family on our mom's side has a deep Montana history, especially stemming from Butte and Helena. And we are so proud. One of the things we are most proud of is to call ourselves Montanans. At Up Top Clothing, they have Montana-made and Montana-branded clothing for both men and women. Their Montana Till I Die collection is one of my favorite collections anywhere in the clothing world. And you can shop online and get the Montana Till I Die collection and all the other great gear that Up Top Clothing makes delivered right to your doorstep. Visit teamuptop.com. And if you use the promo code SKYLINE15, you're going to get a discount on all your online ordering. Teamuptop.com, Up Top Clothing, reminding you to take a step back and enjoy.
Who do we start with? Jones or Davis?
I'm saying Jordan Davis is number 10B.
Yep.
Do you agree? Everybody agree?
Yep.
I'm good with that.
Dylan Jones is number 10A. Everybody okay with that?
Yep.
Yep.
All right.
The only 2 guys who didn't win, by the way.
I'm going
Tyler Hall.
Tyler Hall.
I'm going Jabril Bello, number 9.
Yep.
I agree with that too.
I'm going with Michael Ogine at number 8.
Yeah, and that puts us into our top 7 here that we all had as locks.
Okay. This is just for some inside info. I polled a couple coaches that have been in the Big Sky on and off throughout their careers. One of the longest tenured coaches, assistant coaches in the league, he said that he believed his top 4 were, in no particular order, Saeed Pridgett, Jeremy Senglin, Jabril Bello, and Bogdan Blizniak. So we're a little bit off on Bello, maybe, but I don't know. Should we reconsider Bello? Does Bello have to be above Tyler Hall? I don't think so, but I'm completely biased when it comes to this because Tyler Hall's just my favorite player.
I don't think any of us, deep down feel it when we consider that question.
I agree.
It's the eye
so
test,
we just
man.
shouldn't
Like
go there.
Bello gets so much of the boost for, again, being the pillar of the thing that turned it for Montana State. But on the other hand, as mentioned, he left some stuff to be desired. All right, let's go with slotting the number 7 spot. I think that the number 7 spot, I think it needs to be Bogdan Blizniak. Does anybody have any arguments there?
I think that among this top 7, the thing that hurts somebody the most is Saeed Pridgett not getting to finish that tournament his senior year, and I just think that he has to be bumped for it through
I agree that he never won a single thing as the best player.
through no fault of his own, right? Because the pandemic hit that year right before they played their first game.
See, I would argue he was their best player the last time the Grizz went to the NCAA tournament.
It's just not true.
Ahmad Rory is?
I mean, by a lot.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
Saeed's
so
cool, but Saeed,
let's hash that out a little bit then. So are we in agreement then Ahmad Rory has to be ranked ahead of Saeed Pridgett?
yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So Rory moves up. Who do we rank between who gets ranked ahead of Jeremy Senglin and Joel Ballenboy? I think Ballenboy.
I think so too.
I think so too, yeah.
Okay. So Rory and Ballenboy are in the top 5 definitively then. Who gets ranked higher, Van K. Joyce or Bogdan Blizniak? No brainer for me, Van K. Joyce.
I think that's fair.
Okay. And then Tyler Hall is in that group. So basically we're deciding for the 7th spot between Bogdan Blizniak, Jeremy Senglin, Saeed Pridgett, and Tyler Hall.
I thought that Bogdan's the most diverse out of all of those guys. He's got the largest skill set.
Okay. So I am leaning towards Jeremy Senglin at number 7.
Me too.
I would be fine with that. Like I said, I would have probably Saeed Pridgett there, but I love Saeed Pridgett more than life itself, so I'm fine with him being ahead of Senglin.
I just think that Saeed Pridgett's better than Jeremy Senglin.
I think he's a better basketball player.
Okay, let's put Saeed Pridgett at 6. Then I think we go Bogdan Blizniak at 5.
Yes.
And then I think Tyler Hall is 4.
Yes.
Then I think that
One is going to be so hard here because none of these guys should be one.
isn't that the truth? Isn't that the truth? Here's the thing. This is what makes this so challenging. Because if we're going by just pure basketball abilities, the top candidates for number 1 are Tyler Hall, Saeed Pridgett, Dylan Jones, and Jordan Davis, right?
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah.
And none of those guys are going to be our number 1, right?
No.
Man, are we sure about? I think we need to keep going on this, hashing this out because
Did Ballenboy win 2 titles by himself?
no, he did not. He only won 1.
Okay.
Ballenboy's not better than Tyler Hall either, which is crazy.
He's just such a good defender and he's such a good rebounder. It's impossible to keep him out of the top 5.
Who's better, Bogdan Blizniak or Joel Ballenboy? I think Bogdan, but Ballenboy won more.
Yeah.
I think Ballenboy. But Ballenboy can't be number 1, but like
He can't be number 1, but neither can Ahmad Rory and neither can Van K. Joyce.
Our exercise is falling apart.
Who's number 1?
It's supposed to be Tyler Hall, but it's not.
It's that's the most frustrating part is if we're going to say that all we do is make our all league lists based on winning, and the number 1 important factor in these top 10 lists are winning. Tyler Hall didn't win.
Nope.
You can't be number 1.
I mean, I have the answer that I thought about when we first started doing this exercise, and I agree with you that like you think about him and you're like, that guy can't be number 1, but then he was the best player on the team that we think was
Rory.
the best.
Rory.
And that's Ahmad Rory.
I thought Rory was going to end up 1 the whole time. It's hard to say.
He has the resume because he played 3 years. He was a transfer, but he played 3 years.
Yeah.
He averaged 16.5 points. He was the point guard for the best team, and he was the best player for the best team.
He's also the person that most effectively stood up to Travis DeCuire, which I think is an enormous. I mean, that is a huge thing. Like, after the Grizz went to the NCAA tournament the first time under Coach DeCuire, and that season went flawlessly. They had the same starting lineup from start to finish, and they were like a well-oiled machine. They snatched victory from the jaws of defeat twice in the Big Sky tournament. Then that next year, I don't know if a lot of people know this, but that year was filled with tumult. That team was like on the brink of combusting. And then Ramad Rory and Michael Ogine, they took control of it, and they said, hey, we're not letting this happen.
It's a great argument. It's a great point to add to the resume, and it's exactly why Tyler Hall is number 4, because he had full implosion, explosive combustion, nuclear combustion of a head coach in a team.
It's so true,
The fact that he even scored a point is insane. It's the worst situation of anyone that we couldn't come up with a list of 100 guys that had worse situation or a better situation.
It's no question.
And look, I mean, that last year, 2018-2019, when they went back to the NCAA tournament, here's a point in Ahmad Rory's favor. His points per game dropped that year because Saeed Pridgett emerged. I mean, this is a guy, Ahmad Rory had averaged 17 points per game. He took a step back. He didn't lead the team in scoring that year because Saeed Pridgett took the huge step forward. I don't know the ins and outs of what went down, but that just seems to me like a point in his favor that he was willing to do that.
Ahmad Rory is the best player on the 2 best teams we've ever covered. He's got to be number 1.
Pretty straightforward.
Vanke Joyce is the best player on the other best team we've ever covered.
Put him number 2.
He's got to be number 2. And then I think that Joe Ballenboy's body of work slots him at 3.
Yep.
Tyler Hall, pure eye test. We are fully admitting that we are completely going against the principles that we use to define every list that we make.
I said eye test was the number 1 factor.
I agree.
I mean, Colter, make the argument for anybody you can pick against Ahmad Rory for number 1. Anybody on the list, not on the list, anybody.
Want to know the funniest thing?
You can't. You're right. You can't. You can't.
Only person you could argue would be Michael Ogine.
Man.
We almost left him off the top 10.
And maybe Saeed Pridgett if you know how the story ends with Saeed.
Totally. If Saeed goes and wins that thing,
even if they just go to the championship, I think that he's number 1.
He's right there. I get it. I like where James. So finish out. So Tyler Hall's 4, number 5.
Bogdan Blizdick, even though I think Saeed Pridgett's better. Bogdan has.
I think in a best of 3, they're both playing the 1. They're both guarding each other. I think that Saeed's in trouble.
Man, Bogdan's got that weird strength, that weird game.
So big.
He's so big. He's so big. He truly redefined how people thought about how you can play in the Big Sky. But I shouldn't even say it redefined it because there's no way you could ever even replicate it. It was just totally unique.
It's so unique. And again, Saeed's right there. I just think that they played a very similar thing at their peak. Saeed's senior year, he played on ball after being a 3, which is exactly what Bogdan did. I think that Bogdan at that peak was as good, if not better. You can switch those 2, and I'm fine with it.
What do you think, Andrew?
I think you could switch those 2, and maybe it's an important spot because that's the spot for top 5, but I really think that not having that Big Sky tournament, it's completely not his fault. He was an incredible player.
He went to the NCAA tournament twice, and Bogdan Blizniuk did not go to the NCAA tournament.
Man, it's a fair point. You could
Jeremy
definitely argue
Sanglin also went to the NCAA tournament, and Michael Ogine went to the NCAA tournament twice, as did Jabril Bello. That maybe actually makes me want to bump Bogdan down. Bogdan and Tyler Hall are the 2 dudes that didn't go to the NCAA tournament that are in this mix, and then Dylan Jones and Jordan Davis, but we already have them slotted.
I'm fine with it.
Bogdan all the way down to 9, bump everybody up.
I'm not putting Bogdan behind Jabril Bello.
Okay, Bogdan and Jeremy Sanglin.
You're you love Sanglin more than me, so it's you have the argument of just liking him more. I thought that when Sanglin was off and just kept jacking, he was not my guy.
Totally.
But
okay, I like this top 7. Last thing to adjust about it, perhaps. Bello or Ogine.
Yeah, they could both be moved up.
Or they could just be switched.
That's fine.
Bello's more important for his program's history, whereas
He went back-to-back Defensive Player of the Year MVP.
Yes, he did.
I mean,
he did. Ogine also, though, is there defensively. Like those are the two best defensive guys. One's a perimeter guy, one's an interior guy.
Those are actually Ogine is the best, but Bello does not touch Blomboy.
Truth.
But
Or even like Venke Joyce's defensive numbers were
No doubt.
unbelievable.
Bello went back-to-back double MVPs. He's got 4 MVP awards.
Yes.
I mean, let's get real here.
No, he didn't.
Just in terms of total players of the year, he's talking defensive players of the year. He only won 1 league MVP.
He won. He was one-time league MVP.
and two-time defensive player of the year. So 3 total quote-unquote players of the year.
And he was never the tournament MVP, even though they won 2 tournaments, because it was Xavier Bishop and then Raekwon Battle.
To
I like
Andrew's
this.
last point, I think you absolutely have to factor this in, too. I know we got Joyce locked high, but Venke Joyce is second in league history in block shots.
Trust me, I know.
He blocked 61 more shots than Bollenboy, and he blocked 80 more shots than Bello.
That's why he's second, bro. I think that Bogdan needs to stay. If you switched Senglin and Ogine and Bello, you could mix those up. I'm fine with that. Bello should be high. He already is.
I think that's it. I think you bump Senglin down to 9, and then I think you bump Ogine and Bello up a spot each. Skyline Sports, 10th anniversary, top 10 players of the last 10 years. Presented in part by Town Pump. Montana's best for more than 6 decades. Town Pump's been keeping us fueled up for years now. Made our way over to Bozeman a couple times recently, and we'll be hitting the road going west to Cheney twice, south to Pocatello. Might even make it over to Portland. Time travel coming up. We couldn't do it without Town Pump keeping us fueled up, and we'll be given the opportunity to win some Town Pump, both here on the Big Sky Breakdown as well as the Nuanez now on ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television, and the ESPN MT app. So here's how we have it right now. Mod Rory, number 1, Montana. Venke Joyce, Eastern Washington, number 2. Joel Bollenboy, Weber State, number 3. Tyler Hall, Montana State, number 4. Saeed Pridgett, Montana, number 5. Bogdan Blizniuk, Eastern Washington, number 6. Michael Ogine, Montana, number 7. Jabril Bello, Montana State, number 8. Jeremy Sangland, Weber State, number 9. Dylan Jones, Weber State, number 10A. And Jordan Davis, Northern Colorado, 10B.
I like it, guys.
Any other adjustments?
No, the best part about this is that we make the rules, and I really liked fitting Jordan Davis in there because it would have been wrong to not.
Man, I can't wait to get crushed for some of these, and it's going to be so fun because we're going to be able to argue back. And guess what? We can tell them, go listen to our 2-hour podcast. We did a whole dissertation.
And we'll also have a written piece about all these guys and plenty more, and we'll have the written companion piece to the top 10 teams of the Skyline era coming out soon as well. So check those out on SkylineSportsMT.com.
Go to Uptop, TeamUpTopClothing.com, TeamUpTop.com, that is Uptop Clothing. Use Skyline15 at checkout for 15% off your online ordering. And also check out Cash One Ponds, end of summer sale, 20% off everything in the store. You can check out the inventory, cash1pond.com, or go check them out on Roller Coaster Road, just past the Missoula Airport to Cash One Pond, the premier pawn shop in western Montana. Anything else to add?
I got one more, yeah.
Okay.
If you don't know about Venke Joyce, go watch.
We love Venke.
Go look him up.
Okay, tell me this.
And let me finish. Go look him up. And then the second thing I have to add is Tyler Hall's a top 5 player. Don't even put me in your mentions.
Truth. Venke Joyce only played 1 year in the Skyline era. Does that detract? Would he have been number 1 if we would have had more time covering him?
No.
No, because that was their peak year.
Yep, he wouldn't have been, but his numbers are insane. The eye test is it's so awesome that there's a person out there that plays like that.
And there's a person out there that is like that.
And he's still doing it.
He's still doing it. I'll tell you this, one last little quick story. There will never be anything that touches the fun and the experience of covering the Big Sky tournament in Reno. I know the vast majority of people that follow the Big Sky Conference hated it. They thought that it being in Reno was stupid and that it was a hard place to get to, and I get what you're saying. For us, for our perspective, it was the most fun we've ever had, period. It's not even close. Both because of the fact that you could just hang out and have something to do after the games get over. Like now in Boise, by the time we're done working, there's nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. We just sit at the hotel bar because that's the only place that's even open. And even by then, you can only have one beer because they're closing at midnight. So the entertainment factor. But more than that, the Olympic Village experience. You'd watch a team lose, and then those guys would be down in the casino, and you could go talk to them. And there's no bigger characters and no more fun guys to hang out with than the Australian guys from Eastern Washington.
Totally.
I will never forget watching Jesse Hunt hit. He put all his money. I don't know how much money he had. It might have only been like $20, but whatever. He put all of it on Red 23 because he was Red 23. That's what he wore. And it was his 21st birthday. It was the first time he's ever gambled, and he hit it on roulette. And you would have thought he won the freaking lottery, man. I've never had more fun hanging out with student athletes in my life than hanging out with those guys after he hit that roulette hit.
Yeah, I got the most insane stories from players and coaches and assistant coaches, some good, some so bad that we can't ever talk about. It was really fun. The Olympic Village, I haven't heard that one. Circus.
I
wish they just rotated it.
The
I wish
silver,
I wish you
whatever.
could go Reno and then somewhere else, and then Reno. But like I couldn't do Reno every year for the next 10 years. That didn't really hurt.
I told me and our good buddy Parker Gabriel, who's now covering the Denver Broncos for the Denver Post. He and I told Kyle Sample, our other good buddy, he used to work at the Missoula and used to work at Skyline Sports. If Sample ever decides it's time to grow up and get married, we're taking him to his bachelor party in Reno, and we're going to Millie's for our dinner.
Millie's. 24-hour-a-day food.
24-hour-a-day food. What a concept. You can't find it anywhere.
Get enchiladas and an omelet. It was
Man,
great.
It was great. Bring me back to Reno. Thanks so much for listening. This has been really fun. We've had a whole bunch of fun putting these lists together. We'll have a couple print stories for you coming up as well. We'll also we'll do one more men's basketball, our Big Sky All-Stars next week, and then we'll move into football mode. We'll have top 10 teams, top 10 players, and a football Big Sky All-Stars as well, plus plenty of coverage leading up to the 2024 football season. Get Skyline Sports in your life. SkylineSportsMT.com. Skyline Sports every day, every season.